We're getting ready for the preseason today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate you all being here very, very much.
Joe, happy Thursday. You're home.
Yes.
Does it feel good to be back?
It feels good to be recording a podcast where I know the internet is going to be awesome. Hardwired, fiber internet here at home.
If you didn't have that variable, would you have missed it?
Oh, gosh, yeah. I'm definitely a homebody. I like being in my space, doing my things, routine. It's where I find the most comfort.
Well, let's crank out some good content. We got a good show lined up for everybody here today, so welcome back. We're looking at some training camp storylines across the league that include a cryptic quarterback situation that you want to talk about, some actual quarterback battles that we know exist, roster teams that have a lot of roster competition, and the play or not to play dynamic for teams across the league. You see teams falling on both sides of that, especially with this first weekend's games where it's the first preseason game and it's mitigating risk with getting guys ready and football calluses. And it's a very inexact science, as evidenced by how different every team is in this regard. So we'll start with the QB battles. And do you want to start in Indianapolis? Do you want to start elsewhere? Where do you want to go?
I want to start elsewhere. You kind of teased that I had a cryptic quarterback storyline that's not necessarily a battle.
Yeah.
I'd love to get into this because the preseason, I mean, we had the Hall of Fame game, but it really kind of kicks off tonight. We're going to get over the next few days, every team's going to play. And a quarterback thing that I think is just amazingly underdiscussed is the number one pick, Cam Ward. I feel like going back to the draft, this is the least amount of hype, the least amount of conversation I can remember around a number one overall pick quarterback. And this dude's going to start. And this is year 2 of Brian Callahan. They have had 2 pretty aggressive off seasons back to back and shaping this roster. And I don't know if it's just this idea that, hey, Cam Ward's really gifted, but we really don't know, so we'll find out. Or what, but I'm excited to find out. Cam Ward's been an interesting player for a number of years, right? And he's going into a unique situation where I think the offense is a little bit different than what his skill set suggests. And we're going to get our first chances of seeing this guy play in the NFL very soon. And I'm just fascinated to see how this plays out with Cam Ward.
Yeah, I think with the Will Levis surgery and season-ending situation, they tried to gas it up a little bit like there was going to be some competition, but everybody knew this was going to be Cam Ward's show from the jump, right? Like, it's a team that earned the number one overall pick the hard way. They didn't trade into it. They weren't very good last year. And you kind of have had these organizational resets at decision maker and general manager and the head coach going into year 2, and you got to play, right? You got to roll it out there. And I think they have a really interesting collection of talents. Eli Manor sounds like he's having himself a nice training camp. Not a surprise to anybody that watched his tape. It seemed like the medicals was why he slid there. And Calvin Ridley, and they've got some young guys in the tight end room, and they got a number of running backs that can be effective players. And it's how does it all fit together? And you got to start to take what Cam does really well and marry it with the system that we perceive exists. And that's always a fascinating thing. And I think it makes Tennessee one of the ultimate wild card teams because nobody has expectations for Tennessee as a team this year, right? But the South there's questions with most of the teams in the South. I think Houston rightfully has the strongest standing right now, but there's another quarterback situation in Indianapolis to watch. There's a first-time head coach in Jacksonville. Houston has their questionnaires from a personnel perspective. They're a little bit banged up. They just had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson go down to practice today. Hopefully he's all right, but like it'd be a loss, right? So like, and the offensive line questions. So if it clicks, like, man, it could be really interesting. I don't think anybody's expecting that to be the case, but Cam Ward did go number one for a reason, and it's not just because he played quarterback. He had some really electric stuff on tape at Miami.
And we also had 2 years in a row of kind of an unexpected high first round quarterback stepping in and doing the electric things and leading their team to the postseason, right? With CJ Stroud 2 years ago, with Jaden Daniels last year. I mean, there's certainly people that love those guys as prospects. And I think those guys exceeded anyone's expectations. And now you have Cam Ward, who's stepping into a situation where it feels like the expectations are kind of low. All right, let's see what he can do. He's as gifted as you're going to find. And you've already seen some conversation about the work ethic that he has and how he's showing up and how he's taking command of things. It's like, all right, I'm curious. And I don't feel like there's that much discussion around this.
So I go back to the Rex Ryan quote, Hard Knocks. It's fitting since we're talking about Hard Knocks and the Bills and Rex Ryan's one of your favorite human beings on the face of the planet.
So many good things here.
Do you remember when he said he was talking to the team and I think it was the snack speech, and he said the best place to be are where expectations are high. Do you remember when he said that?
I do. You forget that because the snack part that came next.
Right.
But
I think in certain cases that is applicable, but for a young team, a team like Tennessee, I think the best place that you could be is nobody believes in you at all. Right.
Right.
Because
play free.
You can use that, and you can use that to your advantage. And we're seeing a tease for segment 3. There's another team that's kind of in that same bucket who is going to be cutting it loose in the preseason. And we kind of heard from their coach today. So I think there's different circumstances that fit different teams. And a team like Tennessee, you don't hear anybody talk about, man, if I'm Brian Callahan, if I'm Cam Ward, if I'm the leaders on that team, you try to block it out and not pay attention to the noise, but you're inevitably going to hear it. I'd use it if I were them.
All right. We've got some legitimately open quarterback spots across the league. We're going to get into that here next. Folks, be sure to stick with us. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following all the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps everything fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. I love logging in there and seeing which profit boosts are available. A lot of times it's that same game parlay for Major League Baseball. So you can get in on that action. Plus all the football futures bets are there, whether that's over-unders for win totals for teams, over-under for stat projections for your favorite players, who you think's going to win a division, who you think's going to win an award. That's all available over at FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Now, where do you want to go?
Well, we got some actual battles here, and whether that's the Colts, the Browns, the Saints, I think those are all fascinating situations. Perhaps we start with Cleveland, where Shedeur Sanders is the expected starter for their preseason opener. Kenny Pickett's injured.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an indicator to you that this is Joe Flacco in the driver's seat and we're just trying to sort out things behind him?
I think so. I think Cleveland does aspire to have a competitive season. I think Joe Flacco, with his experience, probably gives you the best chance to do that. I know the turnovers have been a thing there. I don't expect them to have the kind of season that would warrant staying with a single guy from wire to wire. And Yeah, I think you'd be greatly benefited as a team that traded down from number 2 and has a whole bunch of extra draft capital to figure out what you have with your young quarterbacks so you could kind of set a plan for the direction of your franchise as you try to get through the regrettable end of the Deshaun Watson era, because again, he's still under contract in Cleveland.
And then the late addition of Tyler Huntley for a situation that was split 4 ways, right? The first team reps, Pickett goes down, and as Gabriel's banged up too, if I'm not mistaken. So now
and Shadur has shoulder soreness.
Okay.
So you got 5 quarterbacks before Huntley shows up.
Joe Flacco is treated like he was coming out of that Super Bowl win. Protect this man at all costs.
Well, I mean, if the other guys are going down like this, you darn well better protect the guy that's almost 40 years old, right? Like,
right. Yeah, I'm sure that
no unnecessary risk.
None.
None. How about New Orleans with you have a lot of young players. I mean, these guys combined have less than 300 career pass attempts. Jake Haener, Tyler Shuck, and then last year's cameo appearance in Spencer Rattler, who once upon a time was very well regarded as a talented passer and had his fair share of experience and taste of playing time last year, but did not play particularly well. I don't know if I'm Kellen Moore, and again, you use a top 40 pick on Tyler Shuck, I think you really, and it's tough because you want to look everybody in the face all week and feel like you're giving everybody the best chance to win games, but like you need to figure out what you have. And some guys, it doesn't click in practice and clicks in games. And at some point this season, I think Tyler Shuck has to get that shake for an extended period of time.
To the absolute confusion of Adam Schefter, I went to the New Orleans Saints.
To say or.
Wow. It just has all 3 listed. Their Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shuck, Jake Haener. That's the order that they're listed on the official New Orleans Saints website.
Does it have the word or between?
It doesn't. It doesn't. But I bet you if you were in the press box and you had the printed one, it would say or. And that's Adam Schefter just learned about that like 2 years ago.
The Colts actually did have or betwing their 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I saw Schefter tweet about it. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't have I've never seen this before in my life.
Took an absolute beating for that. Do you have, I know like we haven't seen the practices for the Saints and can really assess like, who's been the best quarterback. But between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck, is there one that like interests you more to get that opportunity that you think gives them a better chance based on what you know about the quarterbacks to this point? Or are we just trying to get through this season?
I don't know. It's hard to sell that you're trying to get through the season when you use a top 40 pick on a quarterback. It's like, is this the? You have to have a certain level of conviction to use that high of a pick. And if you don't, and this is just, we're just trying to get through the season and we'll take the dice roll, then I would take an even greater exception to that decision than I did with making Shuck the pick in the first place. So, but with me not having any convictions of either one of those players, like, first of all, I want to make sure whatever injury and durability stuff Tyler's struggled with in college as like a 7th-year senior, like, I want him to play from that regard as well. Mm-hmm. Because if he comes out this year and he gets hurt, then you kind of know, right? Yeah. Like, okay, he put it together in his final year. The writing's on the wall here. Let's adjust accordingly. Like, I think you really just have to protect yourself from clinging on to the talent of that last season with Tyler. So it's a lot of non-football variables that push me to Tyler Shuck.
I tend to agree. I think I'm just the most curious about him. Mm-hmm. I feel like I have plenty of questions about them both, but he's the guy that I think has the better chance to be the guy. Like, when I say the guy, not necessarily for this year, but over this stretch of time for the Saints, where I just feel like Spencer Rattler's a guy that I've seen so much of that the warts I don't know will go away, but obviously new opportunity with Kellen Moore, and we'll see how it all plays out. The other open battle is with the Colts, with Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. Is Daniel Jones going to be the next reclamation project at quarterback? And maybe, Anthony Richardson entering his third season here, it's a big deal as a guy that they picked in the top 5. Going back and watching a little bit of Anthony Richardson over the summer, the highs are good, man. This guy has made some of the most spectacular throws down the field. And it's the type of stuff that those physical traits will put your jaw on the floor a little bit. But it's the snap-to-snap consistency that, makes you want to pull your hair out. And I'm not sitting here saying that Daniel Jones has a better story to tell of consistency in the NFL, but there has been a little bit more. And I think the good thing about the Colts situation in general is that I think they have this stuff in place that the variable is isolated. You should get a good assessment opportunity for these quarterbacks. Now go out and claim it. And then there's the injury factor with Richardson, where maybe this guy is gonna go out and look like $1 million, but the injuries have just been part of the deal there. And it's not necessarily because of his mobility that has factored into his injuries, but last year he got hurt in the pocket. So it's a heck of a situation that I don't know that we're going a quick resolution, but I'm definitely excited to see that play out.
Yeah. It'll be interesting for the ceiling versus the floor, and the floor for Daniel, I think, is higher, but the ceiling's, I don't think, very good. And it seems like there's been some positive momentum for Anthony as far as like how he's put together some practices in recent weeks. And as you've mentioned, the performance of or the group that they have around him, you feel like you're going to get a pretty clear snapshot. Now, I think the good news is this season, one way or another, should give you clarity. If he doesn't beat out Daniel Jones, I think that gives you clarity. If he beats out Daniel Jones and then is not good, I think that gives you clarity. I think if he gets hurt again, I think that gives you clarity. And if maybe he takes the ball and runs with it, and then you're doing the thing that we talked about with Bryce Young yesterday, where maybe you're not necessarily doing a 5th-year option, but you're doing a contract extension that gives him an opportunity, but protects you from a fully guaranteed dollar amount that would be regrettable if things don't work out beyond this year. So I don't think you're at the fork in the road yet, but I think this season is going to set you very clearly on one of two paths for Anthony, as compared to like this year was like, well, we got to get the hedge. Yeah. We paid handsomely for it, and then we're going to let him play it out, and we'll figure it out.
All right. A lot to figure out across the league at quarterback, but we're going to move on from that discussion and talk about some other preseason storylines, including where some teams are falling on playing starters versus not. We'll do that here next. Folks, be sure to stick with us. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year and every year I play on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran that's in your 1 millionth league. I've used Yahoo Fantasy for years, and I love how smooth the draft day experience is. It's easy to set up a league. The mobile app is awesome, and the smack talk just hits a little different on those message boards. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play Yahoo Fantasy, and where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season right around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL.
Play or not to play?
That is the question.
And for some teams, well, I'll jump in with the tease that we had from earlier. I don't know if you heard Aaron Glenn talk about his starters starting and why his starters are starting, but it was like, yeah, it's very Aaron Glenn on brand comment, and it fired me up. It was, we're playing was the response for week 1 of the preseason. And so the reporter followed up and said, any reason? And Aaron said, because I want to play. I want our guys to play. So I think when you're a team like New York, who's going through a complete organizational reset from the top down, those are the kinds of decisions that I think can be very tone setting in nature. First game of preseason or not, guys, strap up because we're going to go play some football. We're going to be flying around. Nothing's being given to anybody. We need to go out and compete. We need the reps. And I think it's very appropriate for where the Jets are at as an organization and who Aaron Glenn is as a coach. And this isn't the team that you look at and say, hey, we need to mitigate risk and make sure we're protecting the roster for week one. You know what I mean? Like, you need to figure out what you have everywhere from top to bottom, with the exception of a handful of elite guys that you have on your roster.
I think that makes sense for the Jets. And I think to what degree starters play is not a one-size-fits-all question, right? The answer, that's not for every team. I think every team's going to approach that differently. Contrast that to the Cincinnati Bengals, who, I mean, they've won the AFC relatively recently. They have a all-world quarterback in Joe Burrow. And Zach Taylor has come out and said that they're going to play in the preseason where they really haven't in previous years. And we've seen the Bengals as a team that has started extremely slow. They're 1-5 in 6 years under Zach Taylor in week one. They have started 3 consecutive seasons 0-2 or worse. You know, they're looking at the way they've approached it in the past and saying, perhaps this is a contributing factor to our slow starts, which, of course, we know last 2 years, Cincy, despite Joe Burrow, hasn't made the playoffs. And so it's interesting to contrast those as a team, year one organizational reset versus year 7 of Zach Taylor with a very established quarterback and saying, hey, we got to start faster.
Yeah, I mean, how many, not even just week one, like how many holes have the Bengals dug themselves into? And a lot of that being Joe Burrow and the lack of time on task in training camp with ACL recovery, and then we had appendicitis and then a calf thing, and even last year there was the wrist, but at least he got some volume with it, right? Yeah. But it was a pretty rare and unique injury. So Joe coming out this year and not having anything, like, unless we get like bladder stones, like we should be in good shape.
Right.
But a chemistry and timing oriented group, yeah, I think it makes all the sense in the world for them to play too. If you had to pick a team that was like, it's not worth it
to play your starters, Kansas City, Philadelphia.
When Kansas City, especially with how banged up they ended up being last year, right? Like,
I mean, I know that there's new players every year for every team. Kansas City over the last 5 years has played an extra season.
Right.
You think about it, like I would be very cautious.
Deep playoff runs that they've made is equivalent to, I mean, it is literally like a season's worth of extra games.
Yeah. So, I mean, all the more reason to get your young players that haven't been on that ride reps and say, you know what, some of these, does Creed Humphrey need a rep? Does Trace Smith, does Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes, these guys, Chris Jones don't need to play him, right? There's a lot of that.
It's a delicate balance to walk. What else do you have here as we get ready for the first full? I mean, there's games tonight. We got, I know, Baltimore Indies tonight, so we'll get the
Bengals tonight, right? Then we get Burrow against Philly, I think is who they're playing, if I'm not mistaken. What is it, when Dolphins are they Monday or Sunday night? Something
Sunday.
Like that?
Yeah, they are playing the Chicago Bears.
Okay, so you get those young quarterbacks in Chicago. What's like your temperature for Miami? Like with it's a timing based offense, but you don't want to expose to risk. Like, what's your temperature there?
I know the last couple of years they've passed on the first week, and then you get an opening possession in the second week, and then it's all third guys. And I don't know, I think for a team like Miami, you could very easily make the sales pitch of, well, we've had injuries. We want to protect our guys. We don't want to have anything lingering. But at the same time, like if you're serious about kind of changing the demeanor and the temperature and the culture of the team, they have had a very, very physical camp. And I know a lot of Dolphins fans are kind of throwing their hands up because Austin Jackson got stepped on and they're playing it safe with him so that he's ready for week 1. But then Alec Ingold's in concussion protocol and they're like, man, these guys just keep getting hurt. It's like, I get it, but you're putting football calluses on, right? Like that's nature of it. And I would rather you be a little too physical and take some bumps and bruises now and at the opportunity to get everybody ready to play. So I'd probably like to see Miami play a little bit more than what they have historically in the preseason.
I think 32 fan bases are concerned about injuries right now. You know, it's you feel the gravity of yours the most, but every team's got a lot going on. I'm interested in the Patriots receivers. I think that's a storyline that's fascinating to me. Young guys, old guys, which 6 do they keep? Who's going to be that Jags running back? Tootin, ETN, Bigsby. I know a lot.
They get a really fascinating rotation of guys.
Maybe they'll all go. I know that there's a lot of Liam Cohen, Bucky Irving, here's Bashal Tootin, let's go. But I feel like Bigsby's the name that
he's an unsexy player, but he can get a lot of chunk runs because of how aggressive he runs.
Yeah.
And they've invested in that offensive line. So
Texans young offensive linemen, I want to see them. How about this Bears left tackle battle between Braxton Jones and Ozzie Trapio? I mean, how do you look at what happened with like Jalen Moore and Dan Moore and dismiss Braxton Jones in terms of like where his career is headed, regardless if he wins that job? And they took Trapio in the second round.
Yeah. And switch sides and he's still getting run. It's a really interesting. I might go for the fresh start if I was Chicago.
Right. I mean, you have Darnell Wright as your right tackle. You just picked Trapio in the second round. You told us what your plan is. I mean, Braxton Jones is not the world's worst left tackle, but if he's not long-term plan, like go ahead and get your guy in there and figure it out the rest of the way, I guess.
Right. Well, we will see what the games tonight bring us. Kyle Crabbs, he's Joe Marino. We are locked on NFL Scouting. Appreciate you guys as always for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your Thursday. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll be back tomorrow for Takes on Takes.
Yes.
So you supply the hot takes, and we will react to your hot takes. Hence why it's called Takes on Takes. We'll see you then. Kyle Crabbs, Joe Marino. We're out of here.